on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hello everyone, welcome to Open Line. Good discussion planned for tonight. What do you think about gun laws in Tennessee? There have been several proposals on gun legislation brought before the Tennessee legislature. Nothing has really gone anywhere. We're going to talk about that with one of the sponsors of this legislation. And also, I want to say, tomorrow morning on Morning Line, we're going to be talking with John Harris from the Tennessee Firearms Association. Tonight, happy to have with us Senate Minority Leader Lee Harris from Memphis. And you have some real concerns about gun laws as they stand in some cases in Tennessee, right?
I think that's right, yeah. And there hasn't been any action yet, so today was the best example as any. Today, of course, we had a hearing on our bump stock legislation. Bump stock, of course, is a device that you can attach to a semi-automatic weapon and make it a nearly fully automatic weapon. So with a bump stock device attached, you can fire about 90 bullets in just a few seconds. It's the type of device that we saw in Las Vegas, which was the worst massacre in United States history. And so we had a bill and wanted to have a discussion today. Dwayne Thompson, who represents Cordova in West Tennessee, have a discussion today about banning or regulating the bump stock device in Tennessee. That discussion was not had. You know, to the surprise of the sponsor, Dwayne Thompson, those in the majority party, the Republicans, decided not to hear the discussion on that issue today. Despite widespread support across the state and across the country to have this conversation about how to keep our community safe, how to keep our schools safe, they decided to just avoid it. So it's pretty discouraging out there right now. There hasn't been a whole lot of action. In fact, there's almost, it seems, a coordinated effort to make sure there's nothing but silence and inaction in this state, at least by those in the majority party.
There was going to be a hearing today, and there were going to be people, I guess, testifying who were in Las Vegas, right? And they were concerned about how bump stocks were used, a bump stock in that attack. But that didn't happen. They came here to testify, and they really didn't testify. They weren't allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Worse yet, we had folks who had experienced the worst massacre in the United States history fly into Tennessee to share their experience with legislators who could have benefited from it, who could have been more informed about what this mass shooting experience was like, and they decided not to hear from these victims of the Las Vegas shooting. It was tragic. It was offensive. It was heartbreaking. The witnesses who flew in, particularly to tell about their experience at the Las Vegas mass shooting, they were shaken. They could not believe that this is how they would be treated by the Tennessee legislature. It is a really low point in my career in politics. It was a low point for all of us that serve over there and want to try to make the best decisions about things that are really important, right? Safety for all of our constituents. Just a really low point, and it's tough to revisit. So yes, I talked to those folks, and they were visibly shaken by this whole experience. And I think a lot of us, you know, there's just a mix of emotions now after having rejected Las Vegas victims an opportunity to share that experience with legislators here on Capitol Hill.
This was in a House committee. They were going to testify, and I guess the chairman of that committee asked to roll the bill to a different date.
I think it was coordinated.
So then they said, well, can our people who flew in testify about this? And they said, well, no, let's have them testify on this other date.
You know, I don't serve on the House. I'm in the Senate. And so this was a House sponsor, Dwayne Thompson. He represents the Memphis area. Has done a great job of trying to really build the case and really make sure legislators are informed on this issue. And as I understand it, there were a couple of legislators, the chair of the committee, and also there was, I think, a Nashville area representative, Glenn Casada, who decided that this was not the occasion to have this debate. And if today is not the occasion to have a debate about school safety, about mass shootings, then I don't know when we're going to have a debate like that. It is high time, it is past time that we engage in that kind of debate, but there's a cone of silence. It's not just the hearing today, because remember, Dwayne Thompson has been trying to get this hearing scheduled since February the 22nd. I carry the bill over on the Senate side. I've been trying to get the bill scheduled since February 22nd. So day after day, week after week, we are delaying having a discussion on the biggest issue in the country right now. I mean, routinely, the USA Today runs a poll and asks folks, what is the biggest issue? For the first time in a very long time, it's not jobs, it's not the economy, it is safety, it is gun violence, it is mass shootings. That's what people are concerned about, but there's appears to be what is a coordinated effort to stop any discussion of what the solutions might be. And that's all we're asking. I mean, everybody gets to vote their conscience, and it's not for me to dictate how people vote or what their perspective is, but the point is we can't, you know, blind ourselves to a discussion and really serve the interests of the people we represent.
Has President Trump, I feel like President Trump has said that he would sign an executive order banning these bump stocks. Is that right?
So from time to time we hear talk from leaders, right, but when it counts, when it's time to do their actual job, we haven't seen any real action. So I've heard talk from leaders around here that they are also in favor of doing something with respect to bump stock. But the way to do that is to have a discussion of an initiative in a committee, to vote on it in committee, vote it out of committee, take it to the floor, discuss it, and vote it on the floor. That's the way you do that kind of thing. Like, for example, we've got a bump stock bill, and the governor may be inclined to support a bump stock bill like we have to, you know, regulate bump stock. I don't know, but I know that Dwayne Thompson and I have written to him in recent days and asked for his support on our bill to regulate or ban bump stocks. Hopefully, Governor Haslam reads that letter or listens to this report and supports our effort to ban bump stock. I don't know. He's, you know, we just written to him, so he does. It may take a while to work through a process, but he endorses legislation from time to time. That's how you take action. So yeah, there's been some idle talk from Donald Trump and from others in Tennessee, but I think people out here are tired of this idle talk. They want somebody to, you know, have a real debate, and they want people to cast real votes, and they want people to say where they stand on real legislative efforts. Dwayne Thompson and I have a bill that bans bump stock. I'd love for the governor, after having watched this show or read our letter or done his own research, to support it. I'd love for people like Glenn Casada and the other members of the majority to allow a debate to take place. I'd love for a hearing to be scheduled. I'd love when witnesses come in and want to share their experiences, for them to be heard and to be treated fairly and respectfully. The problem is none of that has happened yet.
What you hear from those who are opposed to this or have concerns about it is some of the common arguments, well, it wouldn't have stopped this situation or that situation, that there's so many guns that anything we do won't solve the problem. And the other thing, I think, frankly, there's a concern on the part of some gun owners that if they give anything, that there's a slippery slope, and then there'll be more and more and more, and their rights will be taken away. More and more rights will be taken away. So how do you address that? Let's take that second one first. All right, so this one is supported by a lot of people. But I think there's some concern on the part of, let's say, the NRA, let's say whatever gun organization. All right, if we give ground on this, then that's just the beginning. We'll give ground on more and more and more, and we just have to hold the line.
So, remember what this piece of legislation does, and we've got others, and I hope we get a chance to talk about some of the other ways that we'd like to discuss how to keep people safe, right? That's all we're talking about, discussing how to keep people safe, right? A bump stock is a device. It's like a holster, it's like a belt, it's like a coat, right? It's like a bag. Right? It is a device. It is not a gun. The Second Amendment of the Constitution doesn't protect devices or holsters or belts or slings or clothing. There is no constitutional protection for a device. So, slippery slope, there's no connection between a device and what is in the Constitution. And I can tell you who can make that argument best. It is those who like John Harris from the Tennessee Firearm Association and others, who argue routinely about the Second Amendment, about its scope, that it is different from other kinds of regulation. So we can regulate properly bump stock devices because they are not guns by definition. They are a device. And furthermore, it's already probably kind of illegal, right? Because remember, under federal law, owning a fully automatic weapon is heavily restricted and illegal for almost everyone. You can't have a fully automatic weapon in the U.S. However, people can make their own because they can take a semi-automatic weapon, put it with a bump stock device, and presto, they've got themselves a loophole. So in some sense, what we're doing doesn't violate the Second Amendment, and in fact, really just closes a loophole in federal law. But that's neither here nor there, right? I'm not trying to, right? People will arrive at their own conclusion. The point is, don't arrive at that conclusion until you've heard a debate. And we can't even have a debate, at least not a fulsome one. And remember, the governor, even in recent days, I mean, there's just so much talk out here now. It's just, and it's not real, and it's real frustrating. So you have to excuse me. In recent days, the governor formed a committee, right, that was devoted to talking about all the various perspectives on school safety and gun violence and et cetera, and what we should do. I asked to be on that committee because I've got the bump stock bill, and I've got I'm hearing from a lot of folks across the state about how to approach this gun violence, right, and mass shootings. Not only did the governor not respond to that, he didn't appoint any Democrat to that committee. He only appointed partisan elected Republicans, right? Now, we know what the vast majority of partisan elected Republicans believe with respect to guns, right? I've served in this legislature for 4 years. It is not an overstatement to say that the vast majority of them would like to see an expansion of the number of places where you can carry a gun. That is one side, and in some respects, that is a fair perspective. The point is, if you're going to have a real debate, a committee that has credibility and a report that matters, you've got to hear from the other side of that debate. You've got to hear from a whole variety of voices. And the governor so far has decided he's only going to hear, at least when it comes to elected representation that's eligible for service on that board, he's only going to hear from Republicans. He is not going to put a Democrat on that board. So, you know, I don't know where we are anymore. We seem stuck. And we seem unable to even greenlight a debate. We see that from the governor. We saw that today in the hearings, and on and on and on. We just seem fearful of even talking about a range of solutions. So it's pretty frustrating.
With the bump stock, and I want to talk about the school violence, the task force that has been put together. But with this bump stock, which again, a lot of people seem to support, and even President Trump has said he would sign an executive order on this. What are you hearing? So there was no debate today. It didn't go anywhere. What is the objection that you hear? Do you hear an objection from those opposed to passing this? What is the reason?
I have not heard any objection to regulating or banning bump stock. I have not heard an objection to that. Everybody I've talked to is supportive of, at least when they talk, is supportive of banning or regulating bump stock. I've never heard an objection to it. Maybe one of your callers can offer us one, but it searches me. So let us know. Yeah, what do you think? What's the problem with banning this type of device, the bump stock? There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. But what you're saying is you want to have a debate. You've put up a proposal. It's not out of the blue. It's certainly talked about across the entire country. It was certainly part of that shooting in Las Vegas. You've put up a proposal, and there's just no discussion. Exactly. So we've obviously had incidents in Tennessee, right, in Chattanooga and elsewhere. We had an incident in Maryville. We've had incidents in Tennessee. We need to have a debate about safety in our state. We have more accidental shootings involving kids in the state of Tennessee than any other state in the country. That includes Texas, and our population in Tennessee is only a fraction of the population in Texas. So the point is just like every other state out in the country right now, we should have a debate on safety, right? We should have a debate on safety, and we should not be fearful of hearing from all perspectives. Now, I know the politics of this is pretty tricky for some conservatives, and I get that. And I'm not, again, I'm going to let people vote the way they feel they have to vote and, share their perspective. I'm only arguing about a debate, but I understand it's tricky, and I understand the NRA is a very powerful voice in our legislature. There's no doubt about it. They're there every day. I'm there every day. The NRA is there every day. And they make sure that they make their opinion on everything gun-related, make their opinion known. And that makes it tough on some legislators. In fact, they even go further, right? We had a bill this year that NRA supported. It was a bipartisan bill, and it was a bill to say, look, you should be able to have a gun safe. It was to incentivize people to buy gun safes because, again, we have more accidental shootings in Tennessee involving kids than anywhere else in the state. And the way you prevent accidental shootings or gun thefts is to incentivize people to store their guns safely. They can't steal them, and there are no accidental shootings. had a bill to say, let's take the tax off these gun safes. Just a small fraction of the cost so that we can incentivize people to buy gun safes. That bill is in deep trouble, even though the NRA supports it, because people just are, part of it.
Tennessee Firearms Association supports that too.
The Tennessee Firearms Association even supports it. NRA supports it. It appears that people are just a little, they don't want on their record that they support anything that could someday come back to haunt them as something related to the Second Amendment.
They're paralyzed.
They're paralyzed.
There's a paralysis when it comes to this issue.
There is.
Okay, we're going to take a break. If you want to call in, there's a number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. What do you think? Take a break. Be back right after this.